Namaste, my friends. Welcome to Happy Jack Yoga Podcast. My name is Jack. Happy Jack, live from Muskoka, Ontario, Canada. I made it home. Got the black background blurred because there's still boxes. I'm getting settled in here. But I'm live with.
Happy Hannah with nothing blurred, everything clarity over here.
Nice. It is a blur. This past weeks life. Oh my goodness, there's a lot happening. It's all good, but it's very full. We just drove home 8 hours yesterday from West Virginia, leading an absolutely incredible experience at the summer retreat at New Vrindavan. We have some yogis who are on the line. Cece was with us live. Just about 20 beautiful souls, including children, who joined us this past weekend. And I feel like we're going to spend a lot of the podcast on this past weekend. So many beautiful, magical moments. But what's on your heart, Hannah?
Yeah, it's good to be home. And yeah, it feels like we were on a trip this weekend that it was like a different paradigm shift when it comes to time and space. Like it feels we were on a different planet where the understanding of time is different than here in our linear world where there's Mondays and Tuesdays. We
Mm,
jumped into this different reality this weekend.
yeah. Yeah, it was so beautiful. You know, every time that we lead a yoga retreat or a teacher training, we set an intention that this is going to be the best training or the best retreat that we've ever done. And every time that's the case because there's in some way the next level. And not to say like not like better than necessarily, other experiences, but this was the most rich, culturally rich, spiritually rich, um, deep to see like from, first share was deep, and then it just like opened up the floodgates, and to see yogis come together in circle, in community, stepping out of their comfort zones. We'll get into details on that, but there's nothing like it. It's like, well, I mean, we get to be here together in Zoom, and it's beautiful that we can do this consistently, to have some regular practice and connection. That was really special, being together in person.
Yeah, definitely like the most culturally enriching and yeah, culturally diverse, I guess, different than usual event that you can do outside of India.
Yeah, yeah. And say more about that. How did it touch you?
Well, personally, it touches me. I don't know that like culturally different for me because I feel like I have been in India a lot and this is not foreign to me, but there were lots of new yogis who might not have been exposed to all of the cultural differences before. Um,
Mm,
so that's what I mean when I say that.
yeah. I mean, there's just so many beautiful moments. My first magic moment was when you and Aaron arrived, and we brought you into the big beautiful temple area, where it just like all the stained glass and the artwork, or the wood carvings, and just seeing your face, like your jaw just like dropped, and to be able to bring people into that space. But like you say, although it's, diverse and culturally rich and foreign for some of us, I loved how the different guests we brought in. That was one of the things that made it very rich. We had so many exceptional speakers and guests that came in and shared. They didn't come in and start, teaching to us a bunch of PowerPoint slides. They shared their life. They shared their hearts. They got emotional. Not they weren't trying to prove anything. They were just vulnerably, courageously sharing their hearts, and that drew me in. I think that drew all of us in, and and I think in that way it made it very accessible. Knowing that we had students from very different backgrounds, very different beliefs, and everyone felt so welcome and so accepted, and they felt that they could deepen their Christianity or deepen their Catholicism or deepen their spiritual seeking path or bhakti or whatever it happens to be, in just a very accepting space.
Absolutely. And that's how it's different than going to India. Because when we go to India, we visit a country that is swims and is created in this culture. And maybe the only, let's say, translators would be the facilitators like you and me when we're in India. But here we got to meet um, some some people who are Westerners, so they could introduce to us how they have found their path, and many of them practitioners since the 60s. So it's really a beautiful opportunity to meet some of the OGs, like we call them, the original gangsters
Mm,
who've lived this way forever, and we could see the or sense, feel the compounding impact of their practice.
yeah,
And like you said, they weren't lecturing to us. They were being just like so like connected to us. They were showing themselves as they were, and their struggles and their victories, like just like someone you knew since forever. That was so special about it, meeting people who you've never met before, and maybe you never will. It depends. We don't know that, right? There's no certainty, but that you feel almost like a soul connection immediately because of their sincerity, their way of being with us,
yeah,
that you don't typically meet, when you go to the grocery store, even if you go to, I don't know, other gatherings. I've never felt that way before.
yeah. It's like it's so attractive in the sense that I'm longing for it. I'm missing it. You know,
Mm.
like for example, our organic we did an organic gardening workshop with a beautiful soul named Tapa, and I think he's 76. And we sat there. I see Amy's on the line with us now. She was part of that workshop, and about half of the group went for the. Hey, there's Delilah as well, our rock star dancer, amazing. But that workshop with Tapa, we sat there. I think it was supposed to be a half an hour workshop. We were there for 2 hours, and then I realized the time, and it's like, oh, we got to get to the fire yagya ceremony, so we cut that short at 2 hours. We were just all on the edge of our seat, um, because of you just like see it in his eyes, you see it in his way of being, and I find myself longing for it. And of course, I'm just getting settled in at home, and I had a nice little conversation with my brother today, and catching up with my parents, and I will, of course, look forward to being here. But I haven't caught up with the all the WhatsApp chats, but I saw Cece put in the WhatsApp chat like I'm longing, I'm missing for our morning program because we spent 3 hours of on the mat together every morning, and it's just like yeah, it's just a great reminder of the importance and the value and the impact of associating with great people.
Yeah, it is true. There's something incredibly enriching, like nourishing, fulfilling
Yeah,
in being in those spaces.
yeah, and it was like we talk a lot about in New Age and spirituality and in Bhakti we talk about this practice of surrender. We got friend. I see Sarah nodding her head. We're nutters, her and I, right? And we like just go go go, and there's value and it leads to some results. But this practice of surrender, and we did that with this program, with this retreat. We had because we care, and we put together a carefully crafted schedule for the retreat, and then when we got there, we had a beautiful liaison named Madri, and she just such a beautiful soul, and she suggested all these ideas like, hey, what about this devotional dancing workshop, and what about this evening kirtan, and what about this special swan boat festival, and what about this organic gardening workshop, and what about this all of these different things that we could have, held true to like, well, we have a plan, we have an outcome, and we got to make sure we cover all the things. But we let go of that completely and said yes. Yes to everything that felt right, which was everything. Everything that was proposed felt right, and we said yes to it. And we could not have planned. Like, in fact, even if we tried to, it flowed so well, like just in the sequence and the order of everything. And it was just a great reminder, at least for me, of the element of surrender and then also the value of collaboration. We did that. We collaborated with this community. Sometimes as yoga teachers, we can, I know I felt that way, can feel a little bit protective of our community or of our students. And, we don't want to send our students or our community, our clients, our coaching clients, to other people who are doing the same thing. And that's something I've really this past year with the Bhakti Yoga Conference, and this is like an example of like all these great people who are, they've been living it for many more decades than us, and to bring them in to share and their hearts and their stories and their lives in it. Ah, it was so beautiful.
Yeah, and they of course had perspectives that you and I as facilitators do not have. We cannot bring those perspectives. So it was an incredible
Yeah.
gift to have them join us. And the reason why we might be protective is because it hasn't always, like when we have brought in someone new, we might not have known them exactly. And then they do something that we might not, it wasn't part or the intention of our retreat or our program. So sometimes it didn't align. Whereas
Yeah.
now, um, everything aligned so beautifully and was such
Yeah.
an enriching perspective that you and I couldn't bring because we're not them. So it was such a huge gift.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's a big part of what it is because sometimes we've brought in people at retreats in Mexico or wherever, and um, just either their values or their intention, it's just not aligning with ours. And here, I mean, if I just purely got in my head and thought about it, I could have got insecure and been like, well, this is a deeply spiritual community. Maybe they're gonna say something that might be just a bit too deep or a bit too much for our students. But I just, in this act of surrender and trusting in Madri, who is really helping us to co-create this, and and I felt like a student for much of it. It was really cool because we had like 3 hours together, happy jack yoga sadhana practice every morning, and then we had 2 hours together every afternoon for satsang, sharing circle and reflection. So we were 5 hours just like in a closed container per day, and then another 5 to 10 hours of like immersive experiences, either experiencing or witnessing or practicing or hearing or learning with others who are living it. And thinking of that first tour that we did with Banabata Prabhu, and we thought we're going for this. There's this beautiful palace of gold, and so we thought, okay, we're gonna go up and do a little half-hour museum tour of this palace. Like, check the box. There's a beautiful building. We should go and see it. So we said we've seen it. And again, there were multiple tour groups that were passing us because our group was so engaged and asking questions, and because our interest and enthusiasm, the leader was sharing so much, and he was straight up breaking down, like getting emotional because he was like remembering. He's like, I remember this time in the early 1970s and seeing the way that our spiritual teacher Prabhupada and the way that he respected this woman, this young girl so much and empowered her. And he was just like getting so emotional, like brought himself right back to that moment. And it was just a great reminder for us as yoga teachers, the value and the importance of sharing our lives and sharing our story, not just jumping into down dog, but actually sharing our lives with our students.
Yeah, and it wasn't a show he put on for us. I don't think it was
No,
part of the tour, actually.
no.
It was just a spontaneous response to, him presenting us some thoughts and maybe us asking questions. And imagine again, this was one of the devotees that has been there since the beginning. And it's such an honor to hear their stories, the hardships they went through. He was sharing that they didn't have any money and any food. They were sharing their chickpeas with each other. Like,
Mm.
it's quite impressive to be standing in a palace literally of gold with the person who was there when it was built and also helped build it, and they learned all of the carvings and the gold and the crystals and the stained glass work. These young kids, they did not know how to do it, and there was no YouTube back then, so they went to the library to study how to do all of it. It it really is a miracle what they've built there, and to get to experience that from the perspective of the person who built it, like one of the people who built it, that's
Mhm.
that's special. Like we could not have organized or planned for that, really,
Mhm.
if it wasn't for Madri's help, and you being open to it.
Mhm. Yeah, it was so special, and that's why we're we truthfully, um, we we had a group of 20 beautiful souls came together from basically all East Coast US and then of course Ontario, Canada, um, and we felt actually working with Sarah and George on the team, we're like, you know what, Muskoka seems to be a desirable place. So let's, summer retreat next summer, let's bring the group back to Muskoka. And we actually, quickly put that together. And we were so immersed in the schedule, we haven't even really shared that with the students yet. So this is our way of planting the seed that will be coming. And in addition to the fact that we will do Muskoka next summer, I mean, we know in our hearts, I know in my heart, we got to go back to this place. It's so rich, and it's not just the fact that it's beautiful environment and nature and all of this, but the people. Like I truly, I actually felt like a sadness, and they say that the a sadness in leaving. They say that the strongest love is the love of separation. And so as we learned a lot this weekend, but as we were thinking about developing this relationship with higher power, divinity, whatever name we'd like to use, we were talking about how, like when you're a mother, Hannah, and some of you are parents here. When your children are with you, it feels really good, right? It's Christmas and your boys are there, and it's like that's beautiful to like love your family with you. And they say that when in separation, so if your children went away for extended periods of time and you were longing to be with them and longing to spend time with them, that love is even stronger. And I felt that like as we were driving away, there's like so many people. I'm like, oh, I didn't get to give this person a hug. I didn't. In fact, Amy and Danny and their family and Cece, I just slipped away. And many of the people who are there, there is like this. Yeah, I don't know. There's something powerful about the longing of separation, and yeah, it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, that's why being a widow is quite hard, I can tell you,
Yeah, yeah.
or in a long distance relationship.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of love.
Oh, that's good.
Mm.
So yeah, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
So what would you say? What was a magic moment?
There were so many. Erin and I, we were really, um, like our first magic moment was, of course, seeing the temple is in its radiance is quite a blissful event. And and also when you showed us our cabin, we got to be in a beautiful cabin in the forest with the beautiful view. Um, it's really so beautiful to be in nature and in such spiritual place.
Mm,
It takes a little bit of time to tune in. So it almost felt like one weekend was wasn't enough in a way, because then everything had to happen in 2 days and there was a lot of programs, like plans that we had. pretty much for every hour that it was scheduled, which is beautiful. And we wanted to do everything because we know that time was of the essence. That's why I felt like time took a different dimension in these past 4 days.
Mhm.
And also meeting some of the Happy Jack yogis who we had never met in person before was so special. And I was looking forward to sitting next to Kiernan at lunch and finally get to connect and, ask personal questions that we might not do, unless they bring it up. It wouldn't be appropriate to ask people things in the sharing circle. So it was really beautiful to meet many yogis in person. That's always a huge highlight as well, because it's somehow like the people who come to our calls and to our programs, we get to know each other really well.
Mhm.
And being in person is feels like such a gift to actually hug each other and say, hey, how are you? How did it all go? Because we share personally in the sharing circles, but then we go back into our lives to practice what we learn in our yoga and self inquiry.
Yeah. Yeah, many beautiful things that you shared. The first thing you shared regards to your space and where you were staying. You and Aaron were in the cabin, and this is where, so our group, we're going to be sending out a program evaluation or feedback form because we always want to, figure out how can we do it better next time. And so our intention initially was like, how do we keep the cost as low as possible to really make it affordable for people? So we arranged for rooms in the temple ashram, and then also in the lodging kind of simple rooms. And we weren't really even aware that there were all these cabins. But then knowing now the experience that you and Aaron had, I think, we'll wait for feedback, but I think that there will be some of the students that, some that will choose to, like, keep it really low cost, but then also having it just for a little bit more, being able to stay in the nature, with the peacocks, literally peacocks hanging out on your balcony every morning and every evening.
There was a peacock sitting on our doorstep as we walk in all night. And every evening it would come and it would stay there forever and ever. And even if we opened the door to walk by it, like literally its feathers touching us, it wouldn't move. Like it was just, it felt so, I don't know,
Magical.
sacred. Yeah, magical to be, like our guard dog was a peacock.
Yeah, it was so. I mean, they are like so. You don't see that in Canada. I mean, I've never seen a peacock walking around. That just doesn't happen. Obviously, they brought them in. But like you say too, being able to come together in person, 95, 99% of the people who are there, like, are our family, right? We're with them regularly here in Zoom, and then we got to be there and give them a hug. And then we had one student, like, we knew everybody except one student, another Amy, not Amy who's with us here. And so, in the opening sharing circle, everybody's sharing, their name, where they're from, how they when they became a part of Happy Jack Yoga, and then setting an intention for the weekend. And so this new yogi, Amy, shares, and she's like, yeah, last week uh, I was using Chat GPT, and I Googled yoga retreats on the weekend of June 6 to 9 in the United States. And like a few of them came up, and she checked ours out, and she's like, well, they seem legit. And she just signed up. And so, like, talk about throwing yourself in there. That's like so, so cool. And to see her transformation, initially, everything brand new, not kind of knowing how, Happy Jack Yoga, our culture is very open and, sharing, and, so being out of her comfort zone, and then to see by the end, like, major transformation of energy and way of being. And she said this, we could see it visually, and she expressed it herself also, just the impact of, so many things, being in nature, being in, sincere, open conversations, deep practice, all of these things together, being in this immersion for a few days, but that was pretty powerful to see. And that wasn't the only one, but to see those kind of transformations over the weekend is so fulfilling. It's why we do
Yeah, we never thought somebody would find us through Chat GPT.
it. Totally. Yeah, I mean, talk about you just never know, right? And that's why it's important for ourselves put ourselves out there, have Facebook posts, have websites. You just never know what people will find. Um, and then, like you say, the majority of the community were yogis that we see and love regularly. Having Sandra from Queens, New York. Those were many of my magic moments. Dancing, we went the devotional dancing with Sandra. She was my partner for dancing. And then when we went to the cow sanctuary and like petting the cows and just like being there with these beautiful animals and and caring for them and loving them and petting them and uh, yeah, it's just beautiful, beautiful being with people and not just doing yoga on the mat, but like living it, creating connection with animals, creating connection with each other, and my heart is so full.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And the other thing I was thinking about with regards to, we couldn't have planned like when it comes to like the sequence and the different activities we had, we couldn't have planned it differently. Like this might not make sense for those who are listening, and because you kind of have to be there. But like we on the first Saturday night, we did this devotional dancing workshop, and I don't know if when I hear that, or maybe when some of you hear that, it's like that's not really my thing,
They're like,
you
I
know.
can skip that.
Yeah, that's one that I don't need to be at. That would have been, if I wasn't a facilitator, that probably would have been like, yeah, I don't need to be there. But, and for Amy, who the Chat GPT yogi, that was like her most powerful. She had resistance, huge resistance to dancing. That was a way out of her comfort zone. And that ended up being like the highlight magic moment for her. And same, that was powerful for so many of us. But then we did that on Saturday night, and then when we had the kirtan, the congregational chanting of the mantras, the Sunday night, because we had learned all of these steps, it's just like the community erupted into this dancing. And like, cause sometimes when you do a kirtan, which is like chanting of the mantras, and especially when so many of the community is new to it, we were all sitting in a circle. And if we just did that on the first night, many of us probably would have just been like sitting on our mat, maybe clapping our hands, maybe bobbing our head. But because of, doing it in the order that was not planned, so, some greater power planned it, but we didn't. And then to have that final kirtan and Amy's kids, oh my goodness, Amy and Danny's kids, Daniel and Delilah, like to see them in the circle leading us, bringing the energy, everybody singing, like everybody leading, every person in the group. And this is why it's kind of funny, because if we had to put this all in the marketing material, hey, come to our yoga retreat. You're going to dance with strangers. You're going to stare into their eyes. You're going to lead others in singing. All of this. It'd be like, man, I'm not into that. Like that's way out of my comfort zone. But because of the way that everything was built over the days, everybody embraced it. And it was not about like how good of a singer we were. It was just like this expression, this letting go, and cheering everybody on as they led the kirtan. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's like Jack, it's like this. If I may, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it would be like you don't love surprises, but these surprises were even you loved them, right?
Yeah.
Where, and I understand like being a facilitator and this was your retreat, your idea, you had plans for it, you went through all the details like I did when I brought a group to Peru, for example. Then that you have a certain level of responsibility and you need to know what's happening next. But this time it it feels like you were able to also be surprised and enjoy it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And in that sense, it was so beautiful. Like in one sense, um, I was like physically tired even at the start of the retreat, like just, from graduation to having my parents in Boston and then like hop on a flight and right into this retreat. Like I was physically tired, and you could probably hear it, my voice from day one of the retreat right through, like my voice was tired. So there was there was some physical exhaustion. But beyond that, which much more important, like I was so in my heart and so inspired and I was so present. I felt so present from the moment that you guys arrived to the community arrived. And it was such a great reminder for me and for us as yoga teachers and facilitators. That's way more important. So even if my voice is not as strong as it could be, even if my singing voice is not as dialed in as it could be, being present and in a beautiful state and connected was way more important. And yeah, I mean, just, oh yeah, I was going to share, I mentioned we had like a group of just under 20 who came. And so part of the reason, Sarah and George have been so awesome helping us put together the details for Muskoka 2026, which we'll be releasing soon. And part of that was because not as many people came to this West Virginia. Just letting you guys know all the details, the backstory. Not as many people came as we expected. We could fit 40. That would be max. But we kind of had this goal of 40, and that's like a big full retreat group that we would do. And because it was like about half, we thought, well, maybe people are not interested in West Virginia. Maybe it's just kind of an odd place to go, and that's understandable. So we're like, okay, well, let's do Canada next summer. But after that experience, there's no doubt, 2026, there will be another retreat there, another weekend or a few days. And truthfully, even if there's 10 people, personally, I know, I think the enthusiasm, the people who are there, I think there's going to be 30, 40. I think we will max it. But I'm seriously longing to be back with them. That tapa, the organic gardening, I want to sit with him and talk with him all day long, because it's like, it's nourishing and it's uplifting, and there's no preaching. There's no convincing. It's just a pure sharing of his heart and his story. And we could name, all kinds of people who were like that. And yeah, so stay tuned.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, simultaneously, yes, he was purely sharing what is in his heart, but he also has, because of his passion for the yogic tradition, he had an enormous well of knowledge that he would refer to. So in a way, he could teach us a lot of things, and he could kind of also show where it is in scripture and how he actually put that into practice. And it felt like so authentic because there was no bypassing. There's no like, he was being very real too about the challenges of farming and everything that we're doing to the earth. That can be kind of intense conversations, and they are intense conversations. But there was the level, like there's the subtle devotion in it, like mixed into it. Like he was able to hold both difficult things and deep spiritual teachings simultaneously.
Mm. Yeah, and that's a great example, a great role model for someone like myself, who my tendency is to focus on the good, focus on the positive, like what can we do to uplift, and of course that's a good quality, but he is all, even though that's also his vision, he was grounded in reality, grounded in understanding of how things are and how things have become over recent decades. And so kind of that important balance of how things are, like see things as they are, and then see things how they can be, versus just, like you say, spiritually bypassing or just inauthentically high vibe. But it's just beautiful. And another moment I remember that was really beautiful, we couldn't have planned for, like it just, we had this beautiful tour of the temple space. Jai Krishna, who's the kind of temple president, the manager of the grounds, and he took us. And initially, it was a bit of like a, here's this and here's that, explaining the things, and then at the end, when we got to sit or we got to come together in a circle and ask questions, and then we arranged for each student to receive a set of mala beads. So basically, just a little gift, and everybody got to pick out a bag from the gift shop that, they pick out the color of their choice. But to that little ceremony where he, really blessed, and I don't know if you felt it. I didn't receive one because I already had a set, but you received, Hannah, and you witnessed. What was your experience as this beautiful Swiss man, well, 73-year-old, again, so much wisdom, was, chanting these mantras and offering these malas. I think it was so special. I remember Delilah in particular, seeing the kids receive and receive their malas, and all of us receive our malas. What did you witness in that moment?
I think it was emotional, like I think most of us teared up because you're witnessing unconditional love being poured into another human being out of nowhere for no reason, just because. And that too wasn't planned. Well, like yes, it was planned. You had planned that you wanted everyone to get a set of mala beads made of tulsi, which is the type of beads that are honored in this tradition, and then to get everybody a little bag where these beads go into. And it just so happens that the gift shop is right close by to the temple. So you said, why don't we pick them a set of mala beads? And then like all of that happened spontaneously as we were in the temple. Like, hey, should we go get the mala beads now? And then, yeah, and ask the temple president to gift them. It's a beautiful, memory to have that you receive these beads inside the magnificent temple after the tour from the temple president versus you and I sharing it in a circle later. So then we did that, and we went to get the mala beads while he was talking to the group. And when the tour was over, we said, would you bless these for the yogis and give them each? And he's like, just completely like, yes, of course. And he takes one by one and goes in front of them with hands at prayer, looks into their heart through their eyes, and says the prayer with so much love and presence, and then slips the prayers into the hand of the receiver. Just seeing the amount of love and devotion that he poured into each person was emotional to witness.
Yeah.
It feels like a pivotal moment. It feels like those moments of, I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but like when you have a spiritual experience, your energy shifts, the energy in the room shifts. When you witness it, your heart kind of pulsates open, and it kind of changes your vibe forever. That's the purpose of ritual too, I think. That it's a pivotal moment where a lot of energy collectively is being witnessed, and it raises because we're many and we're in a sacred place. And then it changes. If we have an energy body, if we have a spiritual body, it feels like it leaves these imprints that will be with you forever when you've been witnessing it or receiving it. And that's been my experience over the years, being on the spiritual path, so to say, that it's like these little moments of enlightenment or awakening that stay with you as you walk into your so-called normal life. Like now we have in the WhatsApp group, the participants are saying like, well, now we're back to corporate America because they went back to work, and they can just remember the splendor from the temple, the golden ornaments, and the stories that we were told. And it might feel so far away, but it's right there in our hearts. And that's maybe the longing that you're describing as well, Jack, that this type of love, it should, maybe it's prema, maybe that's the right word for it, like divine love versus just what we think love is, like hugs and parental love or romantic love. This is different kind of nectar for the soul. And it happens when you least expect it. And you know when it happens. Every one of us here is spiritual, and every one of us has had those moments. Maybe when you received your baby in your lap for the first time, when your eyes met, or you know when it happens in your place of worship or in your prayer. Maybe even through this dark night of the soul that we were talking about on our drive home. Like what that is it's the moment when, you know, when things aren't going great and it has to get worse before it gets better kind of situation. There's an energetic shift and everything changes. And I think we could witness that so many times this weekend. And that is what I think awakening is. And that is what presence is, to be there, to witness when it happens versus being in a story in your head.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And for those who are listening who are on retreat, the good news is we will meet again in Zoom soon. So even though you're thrown back into corporate America, you know, it's something we love to do, and we've done it already with the group coming to India. But to meet sometimes in Zoom before the retreat to really get to know each other, to set intentions. Then we have the full immersion, which we just completed, and now within a week or two, you know, everybody who is together in West Virginia will come together in Zoom to be able to like reflect and to talk about our integration and, you know, how we're bringing it into our lives. Because it's, you know, even coming back to what you shared about, you know, receiving the malas in that beautiful ritual, like that was a beautiful heart space, right? Where we were just like in this gorgeous space with beautiful people and receiving this beautiful gift. And then, you know, as it was not intentionally planned, but divinely planned, you know, half an hour later, we're in the yoga shala and we're having a mantra meditation workshop. So now all of a sudden everybody has their own set of beads. And now we just got to like receive them and have them blessed and be kind of like, you know, blessed into this practice. And now we get to sit down and learn, how do we practically use them? What is, you know, what does this look like? What could a practice look like? And that wouldn't have happened. I mean, that actually particular workshop with Nikita, it was Cece and Wendy who kind of brought this cool yogi. You know, he was the only guy who wasn't, you know, he was like younger than me, I think, you know, a guy in his 30s. And the only guest that we had that wasn't like in their 70s, but he was a beautiful soul. And Wendy and Cece brought him to our attention and connected, and again we were just like, yes, let's do it. He's got something to offer here. You know, we could talk about mantra meditation, but this guy's living here. He's doing this. He's leading workshops on it. And so it was like that balance of the sacred and the heart connection, and then the practical application. And that's one cool thing about this tradition. It's very accessible, you know, and it's like, yeah, it's beautiful.
It is very practical, actually,
Yeah.
if you choose to engage with it.
Yeah, and we find the elements that are practical. Like for example, it was not yesterday, I guess Sunday evening, we did a fire ceremony. And this is where it was like you're coming back to like maybe next time we need an extra day, because it was like organic gardening workshop, which that could have been 6 hours, but you know, we could have spent so much time with him, and then we were right into a fire ceremony.
Like running.
Yeah, running. In fact, we told everybody, dress up nice, wear your white sattvic clothes, you know, but half of the group, you know, including you and I, we just barely made it from the organic gardening workshop. So I showed up my black happyjackyoga t-shirt and Lululemon shorts. But that didn't matter, because it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter how we dress, doesn't matter how we do our hair. What matters is what's in our heart. And sitting down for this powerful Vedic ritual. I mean, his voice, you know, maybe I'll let you speak about his eyes, Hanna, but his voice and his presence, the pujari, the priest, was so powerful and just like filled the space. Like he was a good demonstration of a yoga teacher filling the space, and to spend an hour and a half, setting an intention. So we had the Sanskrit term called sankalpa, and so everybody set an intention. Well, we've been together in this immersion for a few days now. What is your intention? And we really got to reflect and think about that, and then go through this ritual where we got to let go what is not serving us. We got to really invite in or strengthen what already exists. What was your experience of the pujari and the Vedic ritual?
Yeah, the fire ceremony was on the temple floor. Um, they had put up like a square, big, like, I don't know, like an LP um, disc, like not very big, just a square that was folded over tin paper and then decorated with flowers and gold and lamps and all things Indian
Food.
food. And then there was a coconut shell that was where the fire actually happened. And before the ritual even began, yes, this
I'm
was
holding up
also
a
on the
coconut.
altar.
Yeah, I am holding it for those who can see, probably not well because of the blur, but I've got a coconut. And yeah, so that's right. The fire was within half a coconut.
Yeah, on this square that I was describing, folded over with like aluminum paper and the flowers and the food and the lamps on the floor. And then there is this very darkly skin colored Indian priest who spoke very loudly. And this tradition is a Vedic tradition, so over 5,000 years old tradition of saying, reading out scripture out loud. Before it was written down, it was passed on in this way that the priest would talk the scripture and then we would repeat it, or the students who were good students would repeat it, and that's how you would learn the order of the universe. And it began with him sitting down and say, okay, so first, before we start making all these good vibes happen, and this is not, he's like, let's do this idea, this is like in scripture, this is over 5,000 year old tradition that we're sitting knee to knee across with. The priest says, before we start bringing in good vibes, and he doesn't use these words, he speaks proper English that I cannot possibly paraphrase even. Before we start doing this good work, we need to tell the bad energies or demons, or I forget what he called them. We need to tell them where to go because otherwise we create chaos. And I was like, whoa, say that again in my heart. I did not interrupt him, but I was thinking, like, imagine that, like, before praying for good vibes, like, imagine if we were able to accept and acknowledge the fact that not everything goes as in Hollywood movies. Like, the bad vibes have a place where in this whole picture, and now we're telling them that they need to step to the side because good vibes are coming. I thought that was fantastic. And then the next step, he was gracious to explain this to us because otherwise all of this would happen in Sanskrit and we'd just know nothing of it. But he was really good at explaining to us what was happening. And he said, now we need to situate us in the universe. So we need to, I forget what the exact coordinates was, but like it would go from like big towards smaller. So we're on planet Earth, on the land of the eagles. So imagine this tradition is maybe 10,000 years old because before it was written down, it was only written down 5,000 years ago, but it was practiced way before that. They did not fly around in airplanes in those times. How did they know that in North America, which now has the symbol of an eagle as its kind of symbol, now we're here sitting in the land of the eagles, and then there's a name for this year, and then we situate ourselves where the stars are today, where the moon is. The moon is going to be full in 2 days. All of this he had to like explain and say in this tradition. You kind of situate yourself in time and physical location before you even begin the actual ritual. So such like precisions and intelligence of course, I'm not surprised that it's intelligent, because this tradition and this philosophy, I don't think I could in my lifetime, it would take me hundreds of lifetimes to even understand how the Vedic wisdom is organized and how deep it is and how precise it is. But it's just beautiful when you have this moment of glimpse into this science. We would call it a subtle science. That was a term. Where did that come again? We learned this term this weekend as well. Like, it's a subtle science. Although I think the Vedic science is pretty um, not subtle. It's very precise and very deep. So that was how the ritual was first kind of pre-framed, and then we did lots of prayers, and we offered flower petals and rice to the fire, and had a really long and deep fire ritual in a tradition that is a privilege to witness. Like, I don't know how long these traditions will actually survive. Like, it's even for many Indians, I think it's not part of their everyday life. Some version of it could be, but it was very, for me, paradigm shifting. And it was fun that you made some humor reliefs. What's the term?
Comic relief.
Comic relief every once in a while, because this man was talking very loud. He's used to talking to large groups, right? There's many devotees who will be present, and so he was like talking in this very monotonous way, which is how you're supposed to speak these scripture, because that's how it goes into your subconscious. Like, I just loved being in that space. It felt like home. It felt like some part of me could know this and recognize this from some other lifetime. But you were joking to him, like, hey, can you speak up? Or what is it you said? Like, can you speak a little louder? Like,
You speak a little louder. Yeah, I can't quite hear you.
and he
But
was like, yeah, describe his reaction. It was beautiful.
well, he just like reached for the microphone. He's like, "Yeah, of course, yeah." But I was totally joking because he had such a powerful voice.
And
But yeah,
yeah, there's no part of him that would, like, he wanted to serve you. If you ask him anything, he will do it because he's asked to. Like, there was no part of him that was ironic. Then he got to know you, and you guys were smiling and having, fun exchanges every here and there, which was, just so endearing to see as well.
yeah, I felt so light after, like
Mm.
just so like it was not easy. It was not, I was saying it's not easy for me to sit on the floor for an hour and a half. So in one way, I was like fidgeting and uncomfortable, but then like somehow by the end of it, like just energetically, just such a lightness, and it was so beautiful, and just because we only have a few minutes left, so now we finish this powerful Vedic ceremony, and it's dinner time. Beautiful vegetarian prasadam feast at Govinda's restaurant, and then we're right back to the yoga shala. So our friend Shyami, who led the devotional dancing, she and another devotee were leading a kirtan that evening. But what I wanted to come back and share, the whole reason that Shyami got engaged is because like when I first arrived, and I got there 2 days before the group, and kind of exhausted from graduation and family in Boston and everything, and I found out there was a massage therapist, so and very good price, like $60. I don't think I've paid less than $100 for a massage in over a decade. Anyway, $60 for a massage, and this Xiaomi gave it, and it was the best massage I've ever had in my entire life. And I've had a lot of massages at Ayurvedic centers in India and retreat centers all around in Mexico and Costa Rica. The best massage. So then I'm like, Hannah and Aaron, you guys got to get a massage, before the retreat starts. Then you guys got it. You felt the same, like, and then we share it with the community, and basically all day Saturday and Sunday during our free time, she was giving like back-to-back massages with all of the students. So what turned out to, again, we didn't know her before we showed up. And then we had a massage, and which was a beautiful service to the community. And then it turns out she's like a professional dancer, leads us in the devotional dancing. Then, of course, she's a singer and leads us in the singing. And to see, bringing the movements, and again, thinking about Amy and Danny's kids and like seeing them doing the movements and all of us together is just like, it was pure magic. It was pure bliss. We say these, we say, and actually, there was a really great saying that I'd heard recently, and we shared it with the group. If you're laying down, if you're kind of laying down and relaxed, then God will come and sit beside you. And if you're sitting in meditation, God will come and stand next to you. If you're standing, God will come and dance beside you. And if you're dancing, God will embrace you. And I feel like we felt that, like from those last two evenings of dancing and moving, and I felt embraced. I felt love. It just, you can't explain it. And I recognize that some people might be listening to this and be like, man, this sounds like a weird weekend. I would not be into dancing. I would not be into singing. I would not be into fire ceremonies and all, organic gardening. And it's like it makes no material, it makes no intellectual sense. And it's as we think about it, like, well, how do we explain this now? So, because we're going to do this retreat next summer, how do we explain this without scaring people away, but somehow sharing it in a way where we can communicate and articulate the transformation? Because again, we didn't even get to all the individual transformations to see, like Danica, wow. Just on and on, powerful shares, powerful. And yeah, and I just want to say one last thing. Some Madri, who was really our liaison and helped to co-create this, who was like our medium between the retreat center and us. And she was sharing with some of the group, like she was sharing with Aaron, that she was so impressed with this community because she sat in with some of the satsang sharing circles with us, and she just felt like there's just so much love and there's so much support, and every time somebody shared something, there was just such appreciation and receiving and presence, and it's just such beautiful to see the community show up in that way. And it's like, again, truthfully, just being honest, like it would make more financial sense for us to sit here in Canada and keep running our online yoga school, which we're going to keep doing because we love that as well. It would make financial sense to just like stay online because like there's no travel expenses, no retreat expenses. It's like easier on the body physically, but I'm craving. I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to be in community. And so it's like, finding the thing that makes us feel alive and doing it. It's a question we asked this weekend. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? What do each of us want to do with the rest of our life? And we got to think about that. You're going to say something.
Yeah, I loved how you said, like, this sounds like such a weird weekend if you weren't there.
Yeah.
And then it made me think of a time when, like, one of the first teacher trainings, which was a retreat also in similar place as the one we were now, there was this saying, people had t-shirts that said, keep yoga weird. And I thought that's a good idea and fitting for us as well.
Yeah. And this was an intro. This is a weekend retreat, which we're going to do again next summer. And as was shared many times, and Madhuri shared, because she's been to India and to Govardhan Eco Village, this was like a preparation or a taste. Many of us are going to be in India in November for a week, and that's like that's it, truthfully, next level. That's next level immersion for an entire week. But friends, thank you so much for being here with us on
Can
the
I
podcast.
just say quick one more thing about the India thing and the meeting online? What's also beautiful, like as we crave to be together and have our practices and stay in this heart space, for the India program, we're doing a 1 month reading of the book that the leader of that ashram wrote, The Journey Home by Radhanath Swami. And that's also a beautiful way to prepare for India and to get to know each other and kind of open our hearts and be ready when we do go to that experience.
Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely. There'll be a lot of preparation with Zoom calls and prep calls and that course.
that's in
Yeah,
September, the
that's in
course.
September.
Mm.
That's right. And then we go in November. But stay tuned. More details. I got my phone notes are packed with ideas, like crazy ideas. They might not all happen, but there's a lot of good things happening in 2026. And one of those, I can tell you with absolute certainty, one of those is going to involve returning to West Virginia and to that community. And, I'm sure many of the people who are there will join and hopefully new people as well. And truthfully, even if nobody comes and I'm the only one, I will be there because it was really life changing.
Yeah, yeah,
But
that's
friends, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. We're back live yoga tomorrow, business of yoga Thursday. Now, of course, Sunday we've got our spiritual growth mentorship as well as satsang and 200 hour. Many calls, many ways to connect. Stay tuned. Muskoka 2026 details coming soon. First dibs is for those who are in West Virginia. We're going to get the details to them today. And but yeah, many amazing things happening. We'll see you soon in Zoom, in person. And until then, make it an amazing day. Namaste.
namaste.